Hey, welcome to the Game Dungeon. What game are we covering today? Well, I started off this series as kind of an experiment, and while I wouldn't call it stable, no one's died yet, so let's keep it going. Now this series is not made in a vacuum, and I try my best to go through your emails or comments. I try! YouTube's comments confuse me now. I swear to God, I see some comments that disappear forever and I can never find them again. They only sometimes sort it by date. It's designed to bury some of them. So this episode is devoted to all the stuff I've missed or has come to light since I made the originals. I've been wanting to make this episode for a while now, but some games had a lot more to cover than others. This won't be the last episode like this. Like a porn series that already knows it's going to have a sequel, I'm putting a big number 1 in the title. This will just be on the first batch of games. Now, before I even start on the games, the first thing I want to address is the title of this show, Ross's Game Dungeon. I've had a few self-proclaimed grammar Nazis try to correct me on this, saying there shouldn't be an extra S in there. Well, let me tell you, grammar Nazis, the grammar SS would have had you sent to the grammar Russian front for overstepping your authority. I've had this my whole life. It's Ross's Game Dungeon, not Ross Game Dungeon, because that sounds sort of like what a caveman would say. But moreover, it's the possessive form of a proper name. The Chicago Manual of Style and the New York Public Library Guide to Style agree with me. I'm really not a grammar expert, but I do know this one particular rule. See, this is why the grammar Nazis lost Grammar World War II. Tyrian! I actually don't have a whole lot to say about this episode. I covered almost everything I wanted to. Yes, it has a 2-player arcade mode, and a Christmas mode, and a hidden Scorched Earth minigame, but I was just trying to go for what I thought were the highlights. Many people told me the game Jets and Guns Gold is very similar. Maybe, but it's sideways. Also, maybe I just have Tyrian on the brain, but one fan, Charlie Tashton, emailed me and his profile picture reminded me an awful lot of the tour guide from the Scenic Guide to the Universe. He wasn't even trying to look like him, he's just naturally like this. I mentioned this to him and he says he would love to be a tour guide. I guess he was just born 18 millennia too soon. Okay, first off, it turns out this game may not have been quite as sadistic as I thought, since only some versions of the game will quit the game when you die. The one I was playing for this review did, however, and it totally seemed like something this game would do. So maybe I was a little unfair on this game. A little. Now the big news, of course, is the entire internet rushed to beat this game as soon as I made this episode. I was originally going to give credit to the person who did it first, but honestly, it couldn't have been a bigger mess. One person private messaged me and accurately told me the ending. Another person linked to a video showing the ending, but said it was a friend that did it and I didn't get a name. Another person beat the game by hacking it, which I wasn't sure if the credit should go to them first or what. So I don't know who the hell beat it first. Sorry. But let's look at the ending. You'll notice it's all in German, since I think the developers didn't count on any English speakers making it this far. Why translate what nobody's ever gonna see, right? Thankfully, some viewers did just that, and it doesn't say much. Mostly just that you beat the game. We do get some original music worthy of a Sonic the Hedgehog game, however. It also says to look out for their next graphic adventure game. Well, I looked up what else this company did, and I think the game they mean is... I'm trying. Die Hollenwelt Saga. Der Leuchtturmkristall. I found some screenshots, and it looks like the sort of thing I might play, actually. Except it only came out in German, and I have not learned German since this episode. So, yeah, the ending was pretty weak, probably because they... Oh wait, what's this? Huh. Oh boy, I have a lot of stuff to say on this one. First off, thanks to Neo Kabuto for sending me the Cape Cod expansion to the game. That's what you're seeing now. It's not drastically different, but hey, it basically doubles the length of the game. And hey, I found a ghost train car puttering along with no track or locomotive. Next, my wish has been granted. User Ripa in the forums was able to extract the map data to the game. Now I have the full maps to all the courses. It's not 100%, he wasn't able to get the model data like the houses or billboards to show up, but this is still a lot. It seems to have sparked something since now a couple users are taking a crack at it, trying to work on the models in the Cape Cod expansion. Who knows, at the rate they're going, we may have an actual port of this game someday. I'll play it. Looking at these maps is fascinating for me. Like here we have a figure-8 loop isolated from the rest of the road. Or here, a patch of asphalt in the middle of nowhere. Why is it there? Is this where the aliens are supposed to land? But the finale, which blows my mind, is this map. Looks pretty intricate, right? When I saw this, I didn't recognize it at all. Well, that's because this is the map to the menu. Yeah, the menu, where you select your car. Talk about overkill. This is as fleshed out as any of the main courses, and all we see is just that hill behind the car. I'm always blown away when there are huge chunks of work in a game buried away, never to be seen by anyone. Speaking of which, a couple of users called me out on not finding the hidden X-Wing in the game. One guy even going so far as to say, I wonder if the fact that you haven't mentioned an airport in Test Drive 3 with planes and X-Wings landing and taking off means that you haven't played that much in the game. Ouch! Man, I played a bunch of this game. What the hell's going on here? Well, I did some research and apparently that's part of the Cape Cod expansion. So here it is. Here's the damn X-Wing. I didn't have this expansion before now, and I said that in the review. So now I'm exonerated, right? Oh no, this wasn't the worst of it. In the original episode, I came out and said the steering was awful. You know, I edit stuff out of every episode, and I almost left a line in saying that I tested this with a keyboard and analog controls, and they both sucked. But it didn't matter. People were saying the steering's fine. I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm doing. I should have used a steering wheel. I'm running the game wrong. It's too fast. People were writing me about this. I was kind of surprised so many people were experts at this game. I didn't think it was so popular. Well, I found out where this was coming from. Clint from the YouTube channel Lazy Game Reviews did a review a while back where he talked about it. Let's hear what he has to say.
On the 386 over here, we have it running pretty much how it should be. And on the 486, it runs way too fast. Now, sure, the menu may look nice here. That spinning car looks all cool and 3D and stuff, but this is actually how it's supposed to look. And you can't really see the timer here, but the 386 on the left, this is running how it's supposed to. I mean, the seconds are counting up, you know, the amount of time that you played properly. 13, 14, 15. But the 486, holy crap. Yeah, I've just spent 30 seconds in game time doing that. Whereas this game, you know, in the 386 is playing exactly how it should, but the 486, no, you're freaking screwed.
Okay, yes, I was running the game too fast. I knew that. That's why I talked about the speed in the review. I was doing that for your benefit. Because the frame rate playing this normally is so low, I thought it would be torture to watch it like that. In fact, I did a check. The frame rate at normal speed is about 5 to 6 frames per second. 5! But here's the thing, guys. The steering to this game sucks at any speed. Let me ask you something. Say you're driving along a country road in the winter and you hit a patch of black ice going around a curve. But wait, now pretend you can slow down time and react more quickly. Would that help you much? No, you'd still be kind of screwed, wouldn't you? Well, that's this game. Even at normal speed, the controls are lagged. They suck. They just plain suck. Now, in general, it is fair to second guess me. I'm just a gaming enthusiast, but Clint here I think is a gaming historian. If I ever say something that contradicts him, you should probably trust him. But you notice, he never says, this game has good steering. All he's saying is it's crazy at high speed. But everybody was coming out of the woodwork, acting like they knew what they were talking about, lecturing me about a game they've probably never even played. So since my word is apparently not good enough, let's settle this once and for all. I feel like the gauntlet has been thrown down here. Now, when I made this video, I did not own a steering wheel. But over a year and a very Merry Christmas later, there's gonna be more driving games on Game Dungeon. Now before we get started, first let me prove the steering wheel works. Okay, so this is Fuel, another open world driving game. Now the controls in this are a little more arcade style, but this should be enough to show that things are working. So I'm gonna try and make it down this winding dirt path. A little bit of speed up. Okay, this is sort of a harder turn. Okay, so far so good. Oh, skidded on that. Okay. Maybe I should have picked paved road instead of this. But... Alright, so here's some paved road now. I can take the curves on this just fine. Everything's smooth, it's buttery. So, wheel seems to be working alright to me. Okay, now we have the moment of truth. Test Drive 3 running on what's about the right speed. Let's check it out. Okay, something to look at here. You see this indicator? That shows where you're steering. So if I move that to the right, to the left of the keyboard, then it follows with that. Now, I'm going to turn on joystick aiming. So this connects through the joystick. Joystick enable. Okay, now I'm going to turn it to the right. Left. Do you see that delay? How many seconds was that? Okay, yeah, let's get going. What the hell? I even have to shake it to get it to go forward again. All right, yeah, let's take off. Yeah, I'm gonna have some good driving now. Okay, yeah, okay, I just entered second gear, so this is not like blow your mind speeds. Okay, let's try to take, I steered too soon, Okay, try it again, back. Okay, can we make this curve? Oh shit, I oversteered. Okay. Okay, oh my god, I'm back up to second gear again. Okay, let's try and make, okay, let's try and make this curve. Oh, jeez. Okay, this is, God, okay, it's like I'm on ice. Alright. Okay, just, God, okay, I'm doing the most subtle kind of turn. You see, I keep turning this more and more, that boom, boom, it immediately just shoots down that way. Like, I was just doing this as gradual as I could. Well, there you have it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Test Drive 3 has the worst steering of any driving game I've ever seen. Welcome to CarnEvil! I probably have the most mixed feelings about this episode than any other. I was scrambling to get this one out for Halloween and have been awake for way too long, so this is not the best put together episode. Unlike the others, this one was a playthrough. So instead of being able to edit things down, I had to fill every spare moment with something to talk about. And I'm not sure that's always a good thing. Okay, a lot of things came up. First off, you may not believe me, but my first impulse was to pronounce the river Cuyahoga. But since I'm not from that area, I thought, hey, I'll be professional about this and research the proper pronunciation.
Cuyahoga. Cuyahoga Falls.
Well, next thing I know, everybody's correcting me, so I can't win. I tried, guys. I did mispronounce ill bleed, though. I screwed that one up. As for the most interesting thing to happen in Iowa, there were a few answers. Several people mentioned that Slipknot came from Iowa, but that's not really an event. Someone else mentioned the Vilissa axe murders, but come on, every state has axe murders. So I'm declaring the winner YouTube viewer Echo Hotel, and I'm quoting him. There was the time the Quaker Oats factory accidentally dropped a 100-gallon drum of super concentrated crunchberry dye into the Cedar River, turning the entire thing pink for miles. Awesome. So now when you think of Iowa, that's what you should remember. Alright, I said a couple unintentionally controversial things in this episode, and I'll try to clear those up since now I can actually say what I want and not get cut off by some ape with a chainsaw. I think some people are just gonna get pissed at me no matter what I say, but I'll expand on things just to make sure everybody's hating me for the right reasons and they're not just confused. So the first thing that stirred things up is I said I didn't like seeing violence against women, and a few people got pissed about that. The thing is, the game was rubbing my face in it. You have to shoot Evil Marie like 100 times, and I was doing a playthrough, so there was no way around it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even brought it up. I mean, I think the game is almost perfect for what it is. It was just this in the Christmas section that I didn't like, so that's why it stood out for me more. I think part of the problem is the game is presenting her as a sexy looking character, and she came across more like a kinky cartoon, which didn't make me want to kill her. Some people were saying I'm a sexist pig because I didn't have a problem killing the males. Whatever. 100% egalitarian cultures don't really exist. I mean, hell, you think half the developers and players of CarnEvil are women? I don't think so. Feel free to prove me wrong on this, but anytime you have a game where one of the highlights is making somebody's head explode, it's probably targeted more for men. So as a man playing a game mostly targeted at men, I don't like having to kill sexy smiling women, supernatural or not. I'd rather kill stuff that triggers the obvious threat areas of the primal part of my brain. Now, if you have had a lot of sexy women try to kill you, then I can understand where you might get pissed about my attitude. Like, what the hell, Ross? I've had dozens of women trying to stab me at the club, and you're complaining about shooting one that can fly? What kind of world do you live in? So yeah, for me, it's all about the context. Like, I played the Walking Dead game, and there's one scene where this woman threatens to kill me and the entire group I'm with. Take a look.
You think I won't kill you? I'm gonna take this here crossbow and put a nice soft arrow right through your eyeball. Into your goddamn brain. You're not men. You're monsters. All men are monsters.
What the hell are you talking about?
You know what? I changed my mind. I'm putting this arrow right through your balls. Yeah, right through. String them up on that tree. Then I'm gonna head down to that farm and shoot every goddamn person I see. Y'all wave them guns like you're...
Yeah, I had zero reservations about pulling the trigger on her, because she was really acting like a threat. And unlike Evil Marie, she's not acting like a cartoon, despite being a cartoon. Anyway, this whole topic has gotten way more politicized in gaming since I even made this video, and wasn't something I really wanted to focus on in the first place. So let's move on to the other controversial topic that I did want to bring up. Piracy! Man, this is where the playthrough screwed me because I couldn't get my complete thoughts in, so I had to cut myself short, which confused everybody. The point I wanted to drive at with piracy is it's kind of a spectrum where the majority of it just hurts developers, but once you start getting to the fringes, then it becomes the only rational option. Okay, so right now I can still buy a used CarnEvil arcade cabinet for about $1,700 on eBay. But the company's dead, it's not completely clear who owns the rights, none of the money goes to the developers, and I don't need a whole arcade cabinet anyway. I just wanted to play the game. If the rights holders to CarnEvil wanted to make money from the game, they would still be selling it. Except for World of Warcraft players, no one on Earth thinks $1,700 is a reasonable price to play a game. Even the game makers didn't intend that. I spent, what, 10 bucks in virtual quarters to beat it? Let the collectors buy the actual machines and everyone else just enjoy the game however they can. pirating a game where the company is still selling copies of it is obviously harmful, but pirating a game on death's door like CarnEvil is only a good thing. No one loses. It's a victimless crime that shouldn't even be a crime under these circumstances. It would be like if sharing a bag of Cheetos that you bought was illegal. It's just stupid. Letting games die intentionally is what should be the crime. So the question is, where do we draw the line? Where do you think I should? If you don't own the game or platform, at what point is an emulator or just piracy acceptable? When the company goes under? When the original developers are no longer getting compensated? When there are no new copies for sale? When there is one copy for sale, but it's for hundreds of dollars? I honestly don't care what the law says about this, because it's written by lobbyists and doesn't recognize piracy as acceptable in any scenario, ever, no matter how many games die in the process. So tell me, Internet, where does the line get drawn when piracy is or is not acceptable? Let's make our own internet law and follow that instead, since the actual law isn't working. I don't know where the dividing line is, just that it's not for a $1,700 used arcade cabinet that no developers or rights holders are profiting from. Man, there's too much drama in this episode. But that's okay, I was saving the best part of this for last. Remember when I said I wanted a CarnEvil coin? I would love to have a coin minute that looks like this. Yeah, I kind of wasn't joking about that. And lo and behold, Joe Larson, who is an avid 3D printer, decided to take matters into his own hands. Hell yes. This is smaller than I thought, but then again, you play as a kid in the game, that's why you have a gun, so maybe it's a perspective thing. Anyway, let's hear it from Joe.
Hey Ross, thanks so much for this project. It was a lot of fun to do. Let me walk you through a little bit of the process of making it. In the original CarnEvil game, the coin was just a flat mesh that they put a texture on to make it look 3D. I had to actually make the model in 3D in order to make this work. And so I started with a texture map that I created from the original images captured from the game, and then imported it into Blender to make it into a 3D model. Then I took that 3D model, threw it onto 3D printer. In order to really give you a sense of doom and foreboding, I wanted to get some authentic 1898 evil in here. So I went to antique stores and tried to see what I could find. The closest thing that I could find was a letter written by a young girl to her mother of a discordant nature, written in 1902. So I took a clipping from that and glued it between. So while I can't promise actual evil, if you get a sense of antiquated teenage angst while holding this, that's me going the extra mile for you.
Eternam! Man, Eternam really nails the sort of game I'm hoping to find with Game Dungeon. It's its own world and doesn't seem to care what the players think. It's just some fever vision of a developer. A few things to say on this one. First, people pretty rapidly translated the manual for me, although I'm not sure that was a good idea. I received a few translations, but I'm posting the two that I thought were the most accurate in the description of the original video. Even then, I could feel strange things happening to my brain trying to read these. To say it all, the old planet, the Earth, is only accessible to teams expert in decoding the Michelin's map or in the reconstitution of the bacon eggs recipe. A different translation. They never imagined that their descendants will end up stuck in thin cans here in Orion. Me, by example, has shared my room for 3 exiting years of go-go with a large rumba orchestra. Also, these quotes from movies and actors at the top make no sense at all. They don't really relate to the story, they're not clever, this is all crazy. You know how in some games you'll have an insanity meter? I always thought that was a little silly, but after trying to read some of the manual translations, I can honestly say I think I gained a couple madness points. Read these if you dare. Anyway, it does make a little more sense where Eternam is supposed to be a safe resort, but they're sabotaged by your arch nemesis to make it dangerous, but the AI woman has tricked you into thinking everything is still normal for your own good. I don't want to know more. The manual is more confusing than the game itself. Now, since Test Drive 3 went so well, I may as well ask. If somebody wants to take a crack at mapping out the 3D portions of Eternam, I'd love to see that as well. You don't have to be a programmer either. For any aspiring cartographers out there, you can take your best shot at drawing it. While I'm on the topic, viewer Daniel Alves clued me into the site Mapstalgia, where there's a big collection of hand-drawn maps of games from memory. I think the concept is great, though some are better than others. A few people jumped on me for making an analogy of Tracy to Cortana, claiming she's super important to the story and not a side character at all. Guys, I've only played the first Halo. It's been a while, but I don't remember her being a super big deal in that. Just sort of a helper character. So I think judging the name of your series based on just the first game is fair enough without having to have played through Halo 11. Okay, one final thing about Eternam, sort of. Now again, you may not believe me, but when I was talking about the French Revolution, I almost included the line, maybe the Assassin's Creed series will make a game set in it. Well, that's exactly what happened. Assassin's Creed Unity has since been released and looks like the most developed game set in the French Revolution period to date. But I haven't played it yet, and reports on it are not optimistic. I saw one review that said the story felt like it was written by committee. That's the last thing I want to hear. Plus, if you're an assassin, isn't the French Revolution kind of stealing some of your thunder? I mean, how do you one-up the peasantry storming the palace and executing the king by guillotine? As an assassination, you can't top that. Also, there was one French politician decrying it, saying it made the aristocracy look like the misunderstood good guys and the peasantry as nothing but savages. I would call that a not so accurate portrayal, but then again, this could be a politician just being a politician. If anyone out there is a historian or a history major, I would like to hear what your opinion is on how accurate the game is for historical fiction. I think the metric as to how good a game this is how many beheadings there are. According to Wikipedia, during the Reign of Terror, there were over 2,600 beheadings in Paris alone. So that comes out to about 8 a day. So if there are dozens and dozens of beheadings, like 50 in-game ones at least, then I think it's going to be a pretty good game. If not, then I don't know. Finally, I'm not going to be playing this game anytime soon. Ubisoft has stated that the minimum system requirements for this are either a Radeon 7970 or a GeForce 680. Holy crap. Now, for people of the future laughing at our computers of today, or those not familiar with computer hardware, let me put this in perspective. When those cards came out, they were top of the line. The GeForce 680 came out in March of 2012, and it's safe to say it was the fastest GPU in the world at the time. That card is roughly 2/3 faster than the PlayStation 4 and over twice as fast as the Xbox One. So Assassin's Creed Unity was saying that if you wanted to meet the minimum requirements for the game, you needed at least the fastest video card in the world from 2.5 years ago at the time of its launch. I haven't heard of requirements that demanding since the 90s. Like, the game Crysis was infamous for being ahead of its time, but its minimum requirements weren't that crazy when it came out. You know, normally PC gaming is way more economical than a lot of people realize, but wow, not for Assassin's Creed Unity it isn't. At the time it came out, we're talking a minimum of $300, $350 in graphics hardware to run the minimum requirements on the PC. See, I wouldn't think you would sell a bunch of copies with requirements like that, but what do I know? Anyway, I didn't play Crysis until 6 years after it came out because it was so far ahead of the curve. I'm guessing it's going to be a similar timetable for Unity too. I don't think I have anything to add here on Zany Golf itself. It's still golf, it's still zany. There is some follow-up on the things I said in this episode, however. First, no corporations have taken me up on my offer as an ethics advisor, but it's still standing, especially for Electronic Arts. I may as well finish off my list of why EA is evil. If I was smart, I would have just done this all in one video, but here I am. Some people sent me a big list of things EA has done, and I hate to disappoint you guys, but almost all this stuff is just them being assholes, not evil. I think you have to cause quantifiable harm to people before it qualifies as evil. cheapening a game experience, offending people, incompetently managing companies, I think that's all asshole territory, not evil. But don't worry, there's still a couple items left. Okay, in the episode I left off on the EA spouse incident. You can read it yourself, but the EA spouse was testimony from a wife of one of the employees at EA detailing their working conditions. In 2004, you can expect to work 48 hours a week at EA to start off, then jump to 72 hours a week for several weeks at a time, then during crunch time, have a mandatory 85 hours a week. And the reward to all this hard work was no overtime, no compensation time, no additional sick or vacation time. And no job security either, since these workers routinely get fired after big projects. I feel like getting fired after working those kinds of hours for no extra pay is really the cherry on top. And apparently this wasn't the result of a big screw up. This had all been planned ahead of time by management. I mean, this is basic exploitation for big profits. I think that counts as evil. I saw one commenter bring up an interesting point with this. This is essentially wage theft. Because say you're hired with the pretext that you'll be working X hours, but then you end up working twice that week after week, month after month. And your pay doesn't reflect that, so they're taking more work from you than what was agreed upon. I've never understood the logic of how someone can lie to your face, but as long as it says they're allowed to do that in the contract, everything's fine. Stuff like this is very prevalent in the game industry nowadays, and I feel like it's probably underreported. I bet this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there are hundreds of stories like this, maybe much more extreme. I read an article a while ago that was reporting layoff stories from companies essentially treating employees like cattle, but they didn't have the guts to actually say what companies were doing this. I know why, too. It's because these websites depend on ad dollars and good relations with these companies, so they can't risk saying anything that calls them out. I feel like we need the equivalent of WikiLeaks for gaming. I think there are a ton of malicious, if not outright illegal practices going on, but they're protected by non-disclosure agreements, so the people being abused run the risk of getting fired or sued if they say anything. I'm tempted to just ask for stories from people myself and make a video out of it. Name names of companies that are doing this sort of thing, but keep the workers anonymous. My only concern is I'm thinking that might make for a pretty heavy video, and I don't want to depress everyone here. Like we might find out Activision is threatening to kill their workers' families or something. Let me know what you think. Maybe somebody's already reporting this and I just don't know about it. Somebody should. Anyway, the last concrete item I have of EA being evil was sent to me by Per Asbjorn Gunderson, where EA was hosting an indie game development contest, Code Wars. What happened was, in order to enter, contestants had to sign a form that had a small section saying that any ideas they came up with would be owned by EA. So it was essentially a license to steal their ideas under the guise of a competition. That's cold. After that went public, EA did some damage control and changed the language on the form. It's kind of thick in legalese, but best I can tell, it now says the developer still owns their idea and EA can also take it if they want to. Good job, guys. Now there is one more thing EA is doing that I honestly can't decide is evil or not. But it's such a big issue, it's going to get its own episode and that'll be happening soon. It's evil if you're a gamer, I'll say that. Okay, last game for this episode. I think more people told me about this than anything else related to the game dungeon. Since I made the Strife episode, the original devs have hooked up with another company, and they're reselling the game as Strife Veteran Edition. It has some extra tweaks, I read they fixed the multiplayer, and it looks like the lighting is a little better from what I've seen. This puts the game in weird territory now, since I think it may no longer be abandonware, and it's technically back to a commercial release again. It is really rare for that to happen. This is actually the sort of thing the laws are there to protect, but man, that was a 13-year gap between the company going bankrupt and this coming out. I bet they wish I had made that Strife review after they did this, so I wasn't telling everybody to go download it for free, but I thought the game was headed for oblivion. Anyway, I still love this game. I was surprised how well it held up when I made the review. Next, I said you couldn't see the entity hovering above the Oracle in the original Strife, but I just flat out remembered the game wrong. you can see this in the original. You can only barely see it without pressing the page up key, however. So I'm going to blame my bad memories on my hatred of keyboard aiming. Now at the time, I made a call to anyone willing to help convert the MIDI music from the game to a more standard format. That's still ongoing, though I kind of dropped the ball replying to some people. Anyway, I've heard some promising tracks, but I think we have a clear winner for one of them. Composer Torsland created a metal cover for one of them, and it is awesome. I do miss the saw waves of the original, but damn, this rocks. I'm putting a link in the description of this video. You know, I feel like Oliver Twist asking for more, since the response from these videos has been fantastic. But while I'm talking about music, here's another request for any soundtrack junkies out there. This has been a personal quest of mine for some time now. As fans know, soundtracks are incredibly varied. You have music that sounds like it belongs in a desert war zone, deep space, a fantasy jungle, underwater, the realm of a transdimensional being. It just goes on forever. So my question is, how do you organize this stuff to listen to? I don't mean sort it by artist and album. I mean, how do you determine what songs go together the best? Like their mood or theme. Sites like Pandora make it easy to find similar music, but game soundtracks are the bastard child that don't have anything like that. So to any soundtrack gurus, if you've been contemplating this and have achieved music sorting enlightenment, let me in on the secrets. I want to know. So those are the games. A few more things on Game Dungeon itself. First, I may stop replying to emails that are just requests for games, just because I've gotten so many. However, I do read through them and I am keeping a log. I plan on doing this a long time and eventually get around to some requests. Second, I'm bound to run into more games that don't have any music, so if you're a composer, I'm always on the lookout for more music to put in the videos, especially upbeat and laid-back tracks. Third, it's not ready yet, but I'm hoping to set up a fan art section for Game Dungeon on the site. So if you've been inspired by any of the games covered so far, I hope to show off what people send me in the future. Except Potty Pigeon, those might get rejected. Finally, more episodes are coming. Stay tuned for the next one coming up pretty soon, which will be unlike any other I've done before. So, watch out.